talking about speaking about honesty to others. There are two different types of honesty to other people. One is selfish honesty. That's when you're just being brutally honest because you selfishly want to feel better about being right when someone else is wrong. The second is tactful honesty. Having tact. For you guys that don't know what that means, in case there's somebody out there that doesn't know, it means being honest in a way that is actually helpful to the person you're being honest to, rather than being honest in a way that is for selfish reasons to feel better about, that you were able to tell somebody off or whatever. So that's in talking about honesty with other people though, and that's not really what I want to focus on in that this life. What I want to focus on here is honesty with yourself. Now, there is a difference between being honest with yourself and beating yourself up, right? And right in this area is where fear and also repetitive anxieties can exist and procreate very easily, right? So I know a lot of people who say things that are self-negative and they say, I'm just being honest with myself. Are you really being honest with yourself? Because if you're actually being honest with yourself, you're going to give yourself credit for the things that you do well too. You're not just going to talk yourself down on everything. There's a difference there. So the only way that you can really establish that difference is through confidence. When you have confidence, then you can learn the difference between, am I being honest with myself, or am I being brutally honest, or am I being just basically feeding my own fears? So how do you test between the two? Well, it has to do with opinion versus fact. I did a live video on that not very long ago. So when you feel like you're being honest with yourself, you have to ask yourself this question. Is this honesty that I'm showing an opinion, or is it a fact? Facts can be proven, opinions are just thoughts, right? So if I'm being honest with myself about something, or think I'm being honest with myself about something, I say, that technique I just did was awful. Now, can I say why it was awful? And is that a fact? Or is it just because I think it was awful or it felt awful, but I can't really explain why? If that's the case, then it's an opinion and not a fact. And therefore, I'm not really being honest with myself. Now, where does this come down to? I had a black belt in leadership class yesterday. One of my longest running students was in that class and was having some trouble with some things. And one of the things that we do leading up to a black belt test, of course, you've been training for 4 or 5 years up to that point, is we test how many push-ups you can do in a minute and how many sit-ups you can do in a minute. So we did that 4 or 5 times through this training on Saturday. And I told them to count their own push-ups because I'm not going to count 3 or 4 people's push-ups all at once. That's just, that'd be a nightmare. So I told them to count their own push-ups while I ran the timer for 1 minute. So twice, the first 2 times, actually all 3 times I should say, I had a particular black belt candidate who the first time told me they didn't count. I said, okay, well, that's okay. Just make sure you count next time. So I reminded them to count the next time that they did their push-ups for a minute. The second time, they said they lost count. I said, where did you lose count? Oh, I don't know. I said, okay, well, how many do you think you got? And he tells me 10. I was like, dude, I was watching you. You did at least 30. You can't tell me you did 10. You did at least 30. I don't know. So the third time, he tells me, oh, I forgot to count again, and smiles at me all disarmingly. And I looked at him and I said, I think I know what the root of this problem is. He said, what's that? I said, you scared to know how many push-ups you can do in a minute, aren't you? He looks down at the floor, looks back up at me and says, yes, sir. I said, why are you so scared? Why are you so scared to know how many push-ups you can do in a minute? Well, because I know what the black belt test, and I know how many I don't feel like I'm good enough. I don't feel like I can do enough. Well, how on earth are you supposed to know that unless you're honest with yourself enough to count those push-ups so that you know where you're at? Because the thing is you don't even know where you're at right now. And if you don't know where you're at, then how do you know what you need to do to get where you need to go? How can you be sure that you can do the things to reach the requirements you need? Or how do you know you're not already at the requirements you need? How do you know you're not already there and just beating yourself up? You're letting fear get in the way of your ability to earn confidence by overcoming challenges. And this was one of my black belt candidates, one of my longest running students that was doing this. So I made them count. I made them do it a 4th time, and I made them count this time. And guess how many they got? 38. You know what the requirement is? 35. Wow, right? had already, and then he felt so good. He was so confident. He was like, oh, I didn't think I'd be able to meet the requirements. No, you didn't know you could meet the requirements because you never bothered to count, because you were too scared to know where you were, not even realizing that you were already where you needed to be on this particular thing. So he let fear get in the way of his ability to be honest with himself. Honesty with yourself is self-awareness. Self-awareness is where you can begin to truly grow. But you also can't just brutally beat yourself up. You have to know the difference between fact and opinion, even when it comes to you being honest with yourself. If I do something, if I perform something, if I throw a round kick, if I do a technique, and I'm just talking martial arts because that's my thing. If I write a story for our children's stories, whatever the case may be. Hey, Shirley, glad you could join us. If I do something like write a story or I throw a kick or something like that, and I feel like I go, man, this story is not very good. This story stinks, or this kick stinks. Then I have to remember that I'm just beating myself up at that point. What I have to ask myself is, what are the facts that tell me this story stinks? What are the facts that tell me that technique I threw stinks? Because I know how the technique should be thrown. So can I specify exactly what I did wrong? Can I look through my story and see exactly what I messed up? Okay, then I'm being self-aware and I'm being honest with myself about my mistakes, and that gives me a place to fix them. But if I can't pinpoint why it is that I think I did bad, then I have to understand that that's just an opinion. Even though it's my opinion, it doesn't matter in this case because it's just an opinion. And so that's the trick to being honest with yourself without beating yourself up for no reason, because that is where you start getting into chronic fears and unable to overcome your fears, much like one of my longest running students that was in black belt class. He's never able to overcome his fear because he was never confident enough to face the numbers and actually count and figure out what numbers he was at. I don't know, Miss Shirley, if you ever ran into that same thing, but I'm talking about one of our other students who basically was, I gotta give him this though. He was very good at playing off why he miscounted or didn't count or didn't whatever count. But it all came down to the fact that he was scared to know where he was because he didn't think he was good enough. He didn't have the confidence to be honest with himself to see where he was on his push-up count. And in all reality, he was already meeting the requirements. But he didn't think he was good enough to meet the requirements, so he refused to count when he would do it because he felt like he was behind everybody else. He was comparing himself to everybody else instead of comparing himself to the requirements. But if you never count, you never know where you are, then how on earth are you supposed to get a plan of action to get you to where you want to be, right, Shirley? Come on, right? By the way, I'm still looking for somebody to understand and reference what song the title of this live video is from. So that's talking about being honest with yourself. Now let's talk about being honest with others. So many people need to learn this lesson. Oh my goodness, so many people need to learn this lesson. There is a difference between being happens in level one. Yeah, it happens all the time. People are afraid to know where they're at because they don't think they're good enough. But if you don't know where you're at, then how do you get a plan of action to go to where you need to be, right? And half the time, the people that don't think they're good enough are the ones who are doing better than the average. But they don't know that because they get so stinking scared to know where they're at. Sorry, soapbox moment. I'll calm myself down. Deep breath. Mufasa. No, not Mufasa. That's like the name of something. Wusa. Yes, Mufasa is the dad's name in The Lion King. Whoops. Anyway, so let me get on the other aspect of honesty. So we just covered honesty with yourself. If you need to hear about that, please go back. I had some great gems of information that could help you gain confidence in the early part of this video. Now, let's talk about honesty with other people. One of the biggest lessons I find people need to learn when it comes to being honesty with other people is to quit using their ego and quit being selfish about it. If you're being honest with somebody and they're feeling bad and you're just like, well, I'm just being honest, I'm just telling you how it is, then you're a jerk. Just saying, you're a big jerk. Jerk. Because that's selfish honesty. Here. Family Guy. Oh, my bad. Because you're just being a jerk at that point. You're saying it for selfish reasons to make them feel bad. Montel Jordan. Yeah, Shirley knows this song. Yay, Nana. Nana got it. Yeah, it's one of my favorite songs. This is how... I'm not singing again. I'm a terrible singer. There are some people that just are not born to sing. I can sing, but I can only sing bass. And bass is not really the best singing on its own. Anyway, that's being honest. I'm being honest with myself. I really am not the best singer. Some of you guys have heard me sing, and I can tell you why I'm not the best singer. Because when I go above a bass level, my pitch in my voice starts going like this, and the back of my throat, it gargles, and I don't know. I've never been able to sing very, very well. Anyway, so if you are being honest with somebody and they're getting upset and you're like, well, I'm just being honest, well, you're being a jerk. You're selfishly being honest because you want to feel better than them. You want to feel like you know something better than them. And if one of my teachers, one of our instructors ever gets caught doing that, it's an instant firing. You are instantly gone, because that's not the type of honesty that makes a good instructor or a good leader. That's selfish honesty that's just meant to make yourself feel better and not actually help the person you're being honest with. My instructors are required to have what's called tact, which means being able to be honest in a way that is actually helpful to that person without hurting their feelings. So that's why our instructors are taught to praise, correct, praise. Praise, correct, praise, which is give a compliment about something they did right, correct something they weren't quite there, and then end with a praise of the overall effort, right? I'm not one born to sing or dance. Shirley, you dance better than you think. I got videos of you dancing, Shirley. You can move. You don't even know. Little buddy foo-foo. Shirley just completely derailed my mental. Nana just put, I'm not one born to sing or dance unless it's little. And now I'm like completely thrown off. But you can dance better than you think, Miss Nana. I've caught you dancing. Yes, Mr. Axel, you got something? You can sing? Sing Little Bunny Foo Foo. Sing it. You said you can sing it. Prove it. Yes. All right, do you have anything to say about honesty? So right now I'm talking about being honest with other people. Do you think if I told you something that was honest, but I did it in a way that hurts your feelings, that I'm actually being helpful? No, I'm kind of being a jerk, right? I'm saying it that way to make you feel bad, to make myself feel more powerful and feel better. But if I say something honest to you in a tactful way, meaning I don't hurt your feelings with it, I say something like, Axel, that was a really good effort on that round kick, and you lifted your leg really, really high. But we need to tuck that leg a little farther so we can rotate better on our bottom foot and push all the way through the target. That way we can correct it. So can you turn a little more on your bottom foot next time? But otherwise, man, you have an awesome effort and you're trying super hard. It means a lot to me. Now I'm being honest, right, about a round kick if you messed it up, but I'm doing so in a way that is helpful and constructive. If you ever catch any of our instructors being selfishly honest, as in they are like, your round kick stinks, you need to turn more. No, that's gonna make you feel bad, right? Look at it, that's fake, Brian. Such a faker. Anyway, that's being selfishly honest. You catch one of my instructors doing that, that's instant termination. We got too many other good leaders in the wings to deal with a single instructor that's gonna be like that, right? So please, please, please let me know. And not but. That's right. I did say the word but, didn't I, Shirley? I said the word but on live Facebook. Not posterior but it's one of the and I'm ruined, Shirley. It's one of the communication things we teach in leadership communication. It's one of the things I struggle with the most, is not using the word but instead using the word and to tie two different things together. Because if I say that was a great kick, or that was a great dance, but you could fix it like this, then all they hear is the negative. But if I say that was a great kick and it would be even better if you turned your foot farther when you threw it, now they hear both the compliment and the correction. So yes, that is very important. Shirley called me out on my own teaching. Hey, Miss Shanna Lopez, Miss Lino in class. Did I say his name right this time? Because I didn't. Yeah, because I didn't say his name right for the first 3 months they were there, and then no one corrected me, and I felt awful about it. And did he ever get to punch me in the gut? Because that's the rule. If I mess up someone's name, they get to punch me in the gut as hard as they can. He probably owes me 100 punches to the gut. You know that, right? That's my rule. That's my self-punishment for when I mess people's names up. I've always done it. Anyway, so there we go. We covered a few different topics. Honesty with yourself is not the same thing as beating yourself up. Being honest with yourself has to be based in fact. You have to be able to tell yourself why it is that you don't feel like that was a good thing that you did, a good technique you did, a good story you wrote, a good whatever. Why do you not feel like you're good enough? If you cannot answer the why, then you're only speaking from opinion, in which case you're beating yourself up meaninglessly. So if you actually want to learn how to be honest with yourself, learn the difference between when you're beating yourself up over an opinion or when you're beating yourself up over a fact. If you can't explain why in a factual way that you feel like you didn't do well, and you can't explain how to make it better, then you are not being honest with yourself in a factual way. You're being honest with yourself in an opinionated way, and that's not helpful to you. Now, same thing when we're talking about honesty to others. Honesty to others is there's two different types of honesty, and this is a lesson I feel like tons and tons of people need to learn. Alicia, Lino are watching too. Good job. Hey, Mr. Lino. Is you can be honest with somebody in a way that's selfish, as in basically, hey, I'm just being honest, even though it hurts your feelings. You need to hear this. I'm being honest. The thing is a lot of people are not ready to hear honesty, right? And a lot of people, you have to pre-frame honesty. That's called tact. Sometimes you can pre-frame for 5 minutes and get somebody prepared to hear an honesty. Sometimes it takes months, sometimes it takes years. Why do you think that we don't show everything you can do with the technique at the very beginning in basics class? Why do you think we don't show everything? Why do you think it is that you come up to intermediate class and advanced class and you think you know everything there is to know about a palm heel, and then I show you 10 other things you never learned in beginner's class about a palm heel? That's because some people aren't ready for the honest truth of it. So if you're in beginner's classes and you're not getting corrected on something, and you come to intermediate classes and we start correcting your reaction arms, we start correcting your hikite, we start correcting something in your stances that the beginner floor wasn't correcting. It's not that the beginner floor wasn't correcting it because you didn't need it. The beginner floor wasn't correcting it because the instructors felt like you weren't ready for that yet. There were other corrections that were more important to make first. And then we build on those corrections over time. It takes years to get a proper front stance, proper back stance, proper middle stance. You can't perfect that overnight, right? So there's a difference between being selfishly honest, which is being honest in a way that is really just meant to hurt someone's feelings while you're being a jerk to make yourself feel better and more powerful and more knowledgeable than the person you're talking to. And then there's something known as tact. Tactful honesty is honesty that's done in a way of constructive criticism, as in I am not just being mean about how I'm being honest, but I'm also explaining what they do well, and I'm explaining exactly how to correct what the behavior or whatever it is. We need to remember this when we're parenting our children as well, right? Or am I being brutally honest to my child to make them feel bad because I'm frustrated with them? Or am I being honest in a way that actually gives them tools to fix the behavior that is causing the problem, right? If I look at Axel and I go, hey man, I'm just being honest, but you're sitting around being lazy on those electronics all day is not good for you, and it's honestly, you're gonna rot your eyes out and blah, blah, blah. Now I'm being honest in a way that's kind of making him feel bad. Or I could say, hey, teammate there, brother man, little dude, let's talk about addiction for a second. Did you know that cell phones and electronics can cause addiction? Do you know what addiction means? Okay, well, addiction is something that means that it's an uncontrollable urge. So if you find that you can't go without something without getting frustrated, so if you can't go without being on the phone or being on the TV or being on the video games for more than 3 hours without getting frustrated, then you're building an addiction to those electronics. Addictions are things that hold you like a chain. You don't want to be held down by something man-made by somebody else, do you? No, of course not. So then how about we take breaks and we work on that addiction? I'm just giving an example of how to talk to kids, right? So then we start talking about constructive. Well, here's how we can correct it. How about you do 30 minutes and then me and you go outside, play Frisbee for a little bit, right? And we're going to correct that electronics addiction. We're going to correct that addiction to junk food. We're going to correct that addiction one small step at a time. Of course you can have chips. Of course you can have a cookie. But after you've had your cookie, you don't need any more. And so the thing is, instead of being brutally honest and making them cry and this, that, and the other, now little kids are gonna cry anyway. I'm talking about like 6, 7, 8-year-olds here. Instead of doing that, you can be honest and tell them why. Well, look, you've had a cookie, and the reason why you can't have another one right now is because it's gonna build an unhealthy addiction to sugar. If you put too much sugar in your body won't process it correctly, and then you can't fuel your body correctly to grow the right way so that you can become big and strong. You want to be big and strong like a superhero, right? Well, that's why you can only have 2 cookies and you can't have any more right now, okay? So explaining why to a child is a powerful thing, and it's a much easier way to be tactful to, right? Like he scares the Jesus out of me on that hoverboard sometimes, and I know he can handle it because he just whips around on that thing. But sometimes I can't handle the things he's doing in front of me, even though I have faith in his ability to do it. So sometimes I turn to him and I got to be tactfully honest. And I got to be, hey, son, I know you're doing a great job at that. And I know you can do those spins like that. And I know you can stop on a dime, but you're making daddy really, really nervous because I'm scared that you're going to fall and hurt yourself or bust your head. Can we have an agreement that maybe you don't do that in front of me right now, because I'm just not in a place where I can handle that going on behind me, because it's kind of scaring me and making me nervous and it's distracting me from what I need to do. So that's more I'm explaining why. It's more tactful honesty. Or I could just look at him and go, stop doing that before you bust your head open, son. Well, now that's selfish honesty. I've hurt his feelings. I was letting my frustration out, and I really only did so in a way. Did I really hurt your feelings, Bubba? I was just an example, dude. No, buddy, you're not in trouble. My family. Oh my goodness. But if I say that, now I'm just saying it to establish power over my child. And he's a person. The more you establish power over them, the less confident they will feel, the less self-esteem they will feel. So if you're trying to help your children with confidence, then establishing power over them by saying, because I'm the parent and because I say so and things like that, without explaining an actual why in real life, why it's something we need to correct at a young age, then you're not really guiding them to be the best they can be. You're just doing a power trip to make yourself feel better and make them feel bad. And what happens is they don't stop loving you. They love you. They're going to stop loving themselves. They're going to lose confidence. They're going to lose faith in their own abilities. And is that really what you want for your children? So learning how to be tactfully honest, not brutally honest. So if you're one of those people that prides yourself on being, well, I'm just brutally honest. I don't care how they feel. I'll just tell them how I see it. I call it like I see it. Then you're just a jerk. Okay, you can do that in a tactful way that's constructive to the person you're talking to and not actually harmful to their self-esteem. And having tact is a skill that seems to be being lost. So that's what we do in our martial arts school. Peace Warriors Martial Arts, we're just teaching people something that you can't learn in school. We're teaching people stuff that you can't learn in college. So we're teaching people how to be tactfully honest so they can be better teammates. We're teaching people how to not be selfishly, egotistically honest in a way that is just meant to harm others and boost your own ego. We're teaching people how to be honest with themselves without beating themselves up, but actually honest by using facts instead of just personal opinions, wise, and using constructive plans of action to get through that. Yes, Axel? You are writing a report right now. So to go back to the story.